Hey guys, what's up, it's iFlynn here, and today we're going to be talking about the Saryn changes because they just got it added into the game, and I think they're pretty cool. One thing to note that they've actually removed the music in the background of the simulacrum, and now all I can hear is very weird noises, which makes me kind of uncomfortable, but besides that, Saryn, she's actually really strong now. I like the changes. I think they're decent. I'm struggling to see anything wrong with them, apart from the fact that they maybe change up Saryn's role a little bit. Like, you're not just going to be standing still in one spot, pressing 2, then spamming 1 to kill all the enemies. Instead, you're going to have to put a little bit of extra work in, and that way, you're going to get the best result out of using Saryn. So, her 1 has changed to have, like, unlimited scaling, right? So, there's no duration on it. But the damage scale is up the longer the ability is active on the enemies that are, basically affected by it, right? So if we were to go ahead and spawn in 20 heavy gunners, let's just go ahead and pause them actually, just so we don't have to listen to the gunshots and stuff. They're level 110 because that's what I think is the most realistic. That's like, tier 3 sortie level enemies there. So you would cast your 1 on the guy. Okay, actually we can't cast the 1 on the guy. That's kind of weird. There we go. Strange. So you cast the 1 on the guy, and then once this one guy dies, or you pop the spores that is on the guy, it's going to start to spread. So I'm going to use the Ignis to pop the spores. Now it's going to start to spread to the enemies around within your affected power range, right? So this little general group of enemies here. If I made them walk, these enemies would walk near and then you also get affected. So you might want to mod for a little bit more power range. With the build that I'm using right now, it's the exact same build that I was using on Saryn before they changed this, but you can see that the damage per tick is scaling up the longer it's on, and you can see it in the bottom right hand corner there. So we're 1.5, 1.6k damage, and all the enemies' armor is completely stripped because they changed the base damage from viral to corrosive, and the enemy's dead. So we're just literally standing still talking, and the enemies died once we applied that corrosive status proc on them with the spores. So the longer the spores are active on the enemies, the more damage it's going to deal. This is really good in survival missions, but in defense missions I would say not so much, because you're putting the spores on the enemies, they're dying super fast, and you have to kind of wait for the enemies to spawn in. So she's no longer going to be that one frame that you use in like a defense mission to kind of kill everything, right? It's more going to be like a survival mission so you can keep the effect on for as long as possible, okay? So let's just give you guys another demonstration. You cast it, you either kill or you pop the spores on the one guy, it spreads to the other guys. And then what happens is the damage starts to scale up while also stripping away the armor. With this build, I have 99% power strength, or not power strength, but status chance. So, that corrosive procs pretty often. You don't necessarily need 100. It starts at base 50. It's pretty strong. Like, these guys were just standing still talking and they're dying. So the longer you can keep spores active on all the enemies, the more damage it's going to deal, which makes it pretty useful. The second change was to Molt, but I need to unfreeze the enemies to kind of show you what this does. It explodes once it's destroyed by the enemies, and it's going to absorb damage, kind of like Rhino's Iron Skin. So let's just go ahead and kill all the guys here, and then turn off pause AI, simulate the guys, jump in front of them. We're going to use our Molt. The enemies are going to shoot at it, and you can see in the top right, it's absorbing damage for so long, and then it explodes once off its health runs out, and it deals toxin damage to the enemies that are caught in the blast of the explosion. So here you go, in the vulnerability stage, and now it's going to explode once it runs out of health. So it builds up health, the health ramps up for a short little while, and then there you go, got 10k health. Now it explodes once this hits 0, and toxin damage. Not the best ability, but it's also worth noting you get a speed buff whenever you cast it, which is awesome, So you can recast it to kind of make it explode on the spot. Trail of explosions, pretty cool, right? So if you just want to get that quick toxin proc off, that's how you do it, and you can see all the damage over time that you're dealing with the toxin. Not a lot, but whenever the armor is stripped from the enemies, you know, it's gonna build up, right? So if you want to spam it that way, super cool. So let's just go ahead and take a look at the actual stats for that too. So here we go. Duration 31 seconds, health 1000, radius 17.5, damage 800, speed multiplier of 2 times, which is nice, and then you have a buff duration of 3.88 seconds. So not the longest speed buff ever. You have to mod more geared towards duration if you want that to count, but still pretty good. Like, I can see myself using Saryn a little bit more often now because she's going to be able to keep up in like the likes of an exterminate mission, just because of this ability. The third ability, Toxic Lash, now affects all of your weapons, not just melee, but you also get an additional melee bonus as well. So it says, while active, attacks deal additional toxin damage. This effect is doubled for melee strikes, instantly burst spores when attacking afflicted enemies. So if you use a combination of 1 and then you're free, you're going to instantly burst the spores, making it so that you can spread that toxin effect a lot more efficiently. So let's just go ahead and pause the AI, and we'll simulate. And what I like to do is, I'm still using spin to win. So what I do is I would cast my spores on the one guy, use my free, spin the win through, and then these guys are gonna die insanely fast. Now you've seen that was super quick because you have the toxin damage, so you have the buff on your free for your melee, which is doubled, and then you also have the spores stripping away the armor and dealing damage over time and stuff like that. So they die insanely fast. The only downside is if you're killing the enemies too fast, that infinite scaling or damage that scales up to 100,000, I believe I seen in one of the comments, that isn't going to scale all the way up because you already kill all the enemies, right? So you can see in the bottom right, that little spores buff is gone now. So it's looking good so far. The last ability is Miasma, which they changed from corrosive damage now to viral damage, and it says release a poisonous miasma that deals viral damage to enemies in range. Foes afflicted by spores are more susceptible to the mist. So basically, enemies affected by spores are going to take more damage from miasma. So what you can do is you can spread that spore effect. So let's just go ahead and we'll unpause the AI, and we'll bump the enemy level up to 155 so they don't die as fast. And then you can see like just how much damage you deal. Simulate these guys, get our energy and stuff, hop over, use our free, pop the spores like so. You can see that we dealt a decent amount of damage. Use our 4, and now you have that reduced enemy HP plus the corrosive procs and the fact that these spores are, you know, currently eating away at the health of this one guy. Now, if he came close, I could pop the spores on him and then spread that corrosive effect to the other enemies, but he just has to get a little bit closer. For some reason, he's keeping his distance. So if he dies, it'll spread the effect to the close enemies, but we can also just pop the spores that are on him to spread it too. So let's just go ahead and do that. You can see that it says 10 enemies are infected in the bottom right. We use our 4 again, and then they're more susceptible to the viral damage that we have on our 4. So just keep on spreading that spore effect, and we can use our 3 and we can use our 4 to deal massive damage. So it's just all about using all the abilities to basically like wreck face like all the enemies. So 13 enemies are affected, and you can see the damage ramp up in the bottom right hand corner there. We have 2.4k, 2.5k, 2.6k, 2.7, 2.8, 2.9, and everything is going to die pretty soon. Or you can just use 4 to basically finish them all off. Awesome. I think it's awesome. I think it's cool. It makes it so that you have to basically like be more active with Saryn's kit, and if you're playing it right, like enemies are just running at you and stuff like that, then it's going to be insane. The only thing that I don't like is the fact that she's not as useful in defense missions anymore, I feel, unless you're spamming your 4. With the whole spores stuff, like, because you're killing enemies and then there's downtime between, like, the waves cleared, it makes it so that the scaling damage on the 1 isn't as good, right? So you have to kind of, you know, second guess which frame you're going to play for defense, because I don't think Saryn's going to be that defense frame anymore like she used to be. So it changes her role up a little bit. She's more for scaling late game in a survival mission or something like that. And that's what I would use Saryn for now, opposed to the defense, stand in one spot, use your spores on your Molt, and then pop them with your Ignis to spread the effect. You can no longer put your spores on your Molt, which is, you know, in my opinion, a good thing. So here's the build that I'm running. For this, again, this is the exact same build that I was using on my Saryn pre-change, so you could maybe, if you wanted to, take off all the efficiency to add on more damage or more range. Up to you what you want to do. Maybe more duration for your Molt or your Toxic Lash buff. But I think this build is pretty good, pretty balanced. It gives you the ability to, you know, spam your Miasma, constantly cast your Molt, and also constantly cast your Toxic Lash so you can get that buff, right? So it's up to you whether or not you want to take off the fleeting for, you know, more duration on your 2 and your 3, maybe mod on more range or something. It's really down to you, because we could throw on Constitution in that spot and kind of get more or less the same effect. It would just make it so that our abilities cost a little bit more. Obviously, we'd have to throw on a max out Streamline as well. So let's just go ahead and throw that on. Where's it at? Where's my max out Streamline? You can throw that on there. Maybe even modding for Overextended so you can spread the effect better might also be a good idea. So let's see. It would decrease the strength, but keep in mind your damage is going to scale up with your spores anyway. So potentially like removing Stretch or something, throwing on your Overextended. I'd need the Forma again to throw that on. Might be a good idea. You know, you could take off Augur Reach and then, let's see if I have like a... No, I don't. I need to rank this up just a tiny bit, but, you know, I need the Forma again to kind of fit on like a more of a range-based build. But for now, I think I'm going to stick with the Augur Reach plus Stretch combo that I had just for the sake of it. So let's see. Where is it? Stretch. And yeah, I don't have any Prime Flow in this build because you can see that your base health is, not base health, base energy is 300, which in my opinion is fine for Saryn, but let's go ahead and see how fast we kill the guys. Whoop. These are 4. And these guys are all dead. Of course, you can say that, oh yeah, that's kind of your Zala doing all the work there, but the fact that you're stripping away the armor makes it awesome. So I think that she's a better frame now, personally. You got a lot of buffs there, and you have a heavy impact in a team environment if you're playing like a T4 survival. Well, T4 survival, that's gone now, but a survival mission, like an endless scaling mission where enemies have armor, I can see this being used with like Octavia and Equinox to have a lot of damage, but it also, you know, the question is like, what if you're just using 4 times CP? Obviously, that scaling damage is great, but you're just going to, you're going to kill the enemies rather fast with, like, anything else, right? So, she's a good frame if you're playing with a group of players who aren't running 4 times Crucial Projection. If you're running 4 times Crucial Projection, I would probably recommend running something different, like Equinox or Octavia, for example, because they can just wreck face either way. Even if the enemies do have armor, Octavia is still pretty strong. Equinox, not so much, because that armor reduces a lot of your damage, but again, that 4 times CP makes the difference there, and I wouldn't necessarily use her in a group where you're running 4 times Crucial Projection. I would run something different, but powerful frame. I really do think so. But other than that, this has been the Saryn rework. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Subscribe for more Warframe videos. Hit that little bell icon to stay up to date. Like the video if you liked it. Dislike it if you disliked it. And I will see you guys in the next video.